What is up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Breathe and Air podcast, where everyday action meets extraordinary mindset. Today, we have a tenured DJ who has been to 70 cities worldwide and performed. He is an athlete and the host of the Art of You podcast. Jimmy, thank you so much for coming on, brother.
Mason, it's a privilege to come on and chat with you. I'm a big fan of your podcast, your whole mission. Thanks for your energy and presence, and let's have some fun today.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. This is one that I was excited for. I had the opportunity to go on your show, and I was looking forward to having you on and flip the script a little bit here, so we can dive right in. But I was looking at some of your content, your Instagram page, and researching you a little bit deeper for the show. And one of the things that's on your Instagram bio is "I believe in you."
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that and why that's there.
I think, I guess it kind of stems from the most vulnerable way that I can kind of kick things off for this podcast is to say, I felt like when I pursued my career as a music producer and DJ, there was very split levels of support, whether it was from family or friends, and I had some people that were really supportive, some weren't. And I've just kind of picked up on whether you're a creative, a podcaster, a musician, or something, like people that I just talk to on social media, it seems like there's just not enough support for people out there in the world to like go after what they really want. And I feel like a lot of people, just go after what their friends are doing. They study what their friends are studying in college. They go into a career that their mom or dad did. And I feel like just having some sort of subliminal messaging right when you come to my page, I believe in you. If I can have any sort of impact of positivity right when someone comes to the page, I believe in anybody. I think anyone's capable of doing what they truly want in life. So that's kind of the reasoning behind the "I believe you" on my bio right now.
I love that. I think there is a lot of times in life where we're swayed one way or the other, whether we know it or not, because of those outside pressures and, people that we love and care about. But at the same time, what they want for us might not necessarily be what we want deep down. So tell me how that pertains to you, growing up. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. I grew up, I was born in San Diego, California. I moved like 7 times before high school. I've lived in San Diego. I've lived in New Jersey. I've lived in Newport, Rhode Island. And I've lived in Maryland. I've gone back and forth to the East Coast and West Coast multiple times, and grew up an athlete. I was always making new friends, like moving every 2 or 3 years because my dad was in the Navy. And I was always playing sports. Baseball was my main sport. Played basketball, ice hockey, football. Growing up, through high school, I always had ambition to play college baseball. That was always the goal. And I got involved with like student government and whatnot and did pretty well academically. Got really kind of like intensely into physics. And that was something that I did really well in high school and I enjoyed. Got accepted to the U.S. Naval Academy. Then went to a year of prep school because my SAT scores weren't the best to go in there directly. So a year of prep school in Newport, Rhode Island, did well on the baseball team there. A year later, arrived at the Naval Academy, tried to walk on the baseball team and did not make the baseball team, got cut. And while I was on the baseball team as a pitcher, I met my current manager, Dave, who was a catcher on the team. And we can kind of circle back on how we reconnected and how he came back in the picture. This is kind of crazy and kind of a serendipitous type of story. But I got cut from the baseball team, and I had to kind of like find a whole new identity. And right at the same time, guys in the locker room were playing EDM, like Swedish House Mafia, David Guetta, all these like super catchy EDM tracks. And before that, I didn't even like know what EDM was. And my roommate at the academy, which we didn't get to pick our roommates, it was kind of like, our upperclassmen picked who we were rooming with, and, tough shit if you don't like whoever you're sleeping next to type thing in these little bunks. But Yeah, like one of my roommates was super into EDM. He's from Los Angeles. And I was just like, dude, what is this stuff? I got super obsessed, tried to teach myself as much about music production, bought myself a cheap DJ board. And yeah, it just kind of naturally grew and built from there. And um, kept it kind of a secret while I was at the academy that I was like working on music and playing shows and whatnot on the weekend. And only a core group of my friends knew. But yeah, that's kind of like the evolution of Jimmy through, childhood, high school, and then like into college. That's like the best way I can describe it.
Was music something that was always like you were passionate about music to an extent you just didn't know about EDM?
Yeah, music was always a passion, but I never really gave myself permission to get into it because I just identified myself as an athlete. I remember when I was growing up in high school or middle school, I would be the one wanting to be in charge of the aux cord, or some festival would be recorded on like not DVR, but whatever that is, like some sort of HBO program where you can go watch concerts. And my friends would want to watch movies. I'd be like, no, like let's watch Red Hot Chili Peppers or Muse or whatever on this concert. And like, I would get so obsessed about intros. Like, why are these bands playing this song first? And like the psychology behind it. And I went to a Red Hot Chili Peppers concert with my brother in San Diego that we snuck into. And I was like, damn, like I want to do something with music, but I never really gave myself permission. But when I saw these DJs kind of doing it by themselves, and they didn't need 3 or 4 other guys to put the music together, and it kind of blew my mind that you can make music on a computer. And I was like, man, I can figure this out myself at some point. It's not going to be easy, and it hasn't. It's taken 3-4 years to get to a point where I could even perform live shows and get my music out, and then it's been another 3 or 4 years since that point. So, or actually, close to 5. But yeah, man, there was always a love for music and wanting to go to concerts, experience that energy, kind of being like the guy always showing new music to friends in high school and stuff. But
Yeah.
no born musical talent or anything like that. Didn't grow up playing instruments or anything.
Yeah, you said something there that was profound to me, and so much that I had to write it down. You said you gave yourself permission.
Yeah.
Your identity was athletics, right? And you had this interest for something else, but tell me a little bit about your thought process there when you're making this transition. And even at first, when, like you said, you only had a core group of friends who were listening or knew that you were doing these things, how was it kind of coming out with like, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I love to do?
Well, for a couple of years, it was just a hobby. It was something that I got emotional release from. I could kind of escape and go into this creative hole and like get away from the books, get away from college and that stress. And I feel like, no one really thought anything of it. It was like, okay, cool. He's got this little hobby. Other people like video games or maybe a particular sport. I got super into this. And it wasn't really until my senior year at the academy that I started actually performing shows. And there was a turning point where I had an opportunity to play a show in San Diego while on summer break. And it was a last minute thing where the promoter was like, hey, we need a DJ to fill in. This guy bailed out. Can you play, in 4 days? And I was like, yeah, like, let's just do it. Like at that time, dude, Mason, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, honestly, like in terms of the mechanics behind mixing, beat matching, like looking back, that had to have been an awful show. But that one show while I was back in San Diego for, summer break before I had to go back to school for my senior year, I got a flyer with my DJ name on it. I could say I performed in San Diego, even though it was like a small bar and I was the opener. Then I come back to Maryland for my senior year, and then I'm able to kind of use that as kind of some social proof of like, hey, I've DJ'd some places, even though that was like the only place I had DJ'd. I was like the opener for the first hour, like playing bangers, way too high energy while everyone's walking in the room, like just wanting to chill. And like, dude, this guy needs to chill the fuck out. But I just love telling that story. But then come back, and there's this huge event in Baltimore called Rally in the Alley. Like Johns Hopkins, Towson University, Loyola University, University of Maryland. All these college kids go to this every year. It's something people look forward to every year. It's like 4,000 or 5,000 people pay $30 for all you can drink Miller Lite for like 5 hours or something ridiculous. And I got an opportunity. I got booked to perform at that. Well, word was out at that point that I was a DJ, at my school. Word got out. And from that point on, it was like, okay, well, I'm able to get on like a big event like this. It was just kind of a continual push forward. Let me see how big this can be. And I'm not sure if I actually answered the original question, but that was just kind of the evolution of that part. Yeah.
No, that's sick. I'll go back to like your first show. What was your mindset when you got that call? Because I'm sure there was a part of you like, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. So that leap of faith to do that, and then kind of your thought process when you're going into that first thing and your emotions.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll mention two stories if that's all right, Mason. The first one would be that one in San Diego where it was like a 3 or 4 day heads up. I didn't even have a DJ name at the time. I just like made one up, and they're like, hey, what's your DJ name for the flyer? I made one up, and I was just like rallying. My biggest concern was to be able to bring people and like pack the place. So I was just rallying friends in San Diego. My good friends and I had a huge pregame and just like tried to get people out there. And looking back, it was crazy. Like that first day, I was over at my buddy Morgan's house, just working on my mix, practicing and making sure I had all these songs ready to go. Totally over analyzing everything. And it was so funny. Like I was playing way too high energy for 10 p.m. at night. I mean, anyone that goes out in San Diego or really anywhere, like you're kind of just ready to, step out, have a few drinks. No one's really ready to party yet. And I was playing bangers in front of an empty room besides my best friends that were just like going nuts just to be there for me. Then a few months later in Maryland, I had an opportunity to play a big Halloween event in Baltimore, Maryland. And basically it was on this DJ equipment called Pioneer CDJs. And it's like $4,000 DJ equipment. At the time I was in college, that was not in my budget or anything like that. So the GM of the nightclub's like, hey, can you play this Halloween event? It would be on CDJs. You need to play on these. And that's like the industry standard. That's what I play on now. But at the time, I had never even used this equipment or touched it. I agreed to that first kind of that was like my first big nightclub show at a legit venue with a real DJ stage and whatnot. And I had never used the equipment before. But I was like, you know what? I don't know when I'm going to get another opportunity to do something like this. So I agreed to it, went to YouTube, just watched tutorials on how to use this stuff, got to the nightclub 30 minutes early, an hour early, practiced a little bit. And the show went great, and more opportunities came after that. And it was like a huge momentum shift after that show on Halloween.
Yeah. There's a post that you wrote not too long ago, and you're saying all these things that you've done and you've jumped in, the podcast, running, which we can get to, DJing per se, from being an athlete to just starting and buying a cheap DJ board, right?
Yeah.
And you said the two words, just start. And it seems like you followed that for, most of your life. How has that affected you positively? And how can people who are scared to just start get over that hump and be able to chase what they want?
Yeah, there's a few things that come to mind. And the first one is whatever you're trying to do, whatever that end product is, whether it's a podcast episode, a DJ mix, your first remix or a song, a vlog video, whatever that is, you're not going to make a perfect one. And it sure as hell isn't going to be on the first try. I'm sure, I've had someone, a fan that I connected with from a show up in Nova Scotia, Canada, who she, wants to pursue DJing and make mixes. And she's like, hey, Jimmy, like I made this mix and I don't know if I should actually release it or not. It's been a couple months. And I'm like, hey, you should just release this and put it out there. And she's like, well, that's easy for you to say. You've put out all these mixes that are perfect. And in my mind, I'm like, no, like none of these mixes have ever been perfect. I've never released something and been like, this is 100% perfect. And there's nothing I would change. And that goes for a podcast as a host, a show as a live show. There's always something you can do to get better. And Mason, like, I mean, I've probably released, upwards of 20 or 30 hour mixes on my SoundCloud. And nothing's ever been perfect. You do have to just start and like go for it.
Yeah.
But I think people have, they have a fear of letting go of like a piece of them and letting it go out to the world. And I think you just have to throw it out there, and you're just going to get better and better. And that'll compound, and the confidence comes with repetition. And I think life is all about reps and sets, man. That's the easiest way for me to describe it.
I like that. Life is all about reps and sets. And that's so true, because when we overanalyze these things over and over again, then we almost have paralysis. Like we sit on it because we're like this, and I'm like that. And a lot of people are like that, nitpicky, trying to be perfectionist.
Yeah.
The more that I've been able to let go of the fact that nothing I do is going to be perfect, and that I just need to put myself out there. And like you said, reps and sets, the more success I've seen and the better I've gotten, because I've learned from those little things and just applied them as we went. You mentioned the word compound, and you are interested in the compound effect. What is the compound effect?
Yeah, the compound effect is the idea of, whether it's, making more money or applying a new habit and letting that compound over time, where, one Instagram post or one song isn't going to change your social media following or your impact on your community. But the difference between the first song and the second song might not be that big of a deal, or that second post or that second follower. But the difference between showing up for the 10th time versus the 11th time is way bigger. Showing up the 99th time and the 100th time is way, way bigger. And I found that in this career, and how I relate the compound effect to touring and whatnot, there were a lot of times where my manager, Dave, and I had opportunities that most people would just be like, that's not worth traveling across the country for money wise. That's a lot of time buying the flights back and forth, and it's only in front of a couple hundred people. Well, if we didn't take those opportunities when I only had one show or two shows a month early on, we wouldn't be at a place where I was able to tour and do 8 or 10 or 12 shows in a month. For example, we absolutely grinded to get a show in New Orleans over New Year's Eve weekend in 2017. Dave made upwards of 45 phone calls for this one show to make it happen. He followed up. Well, that one show got us a huge show in Austin, Texas, Memorial Day weekend 5 months later. Crushed that show. Then that show, there was a key person who is now like a super good friend of mine, who has kind of helped us get our feet wet in Asia for the first Asia tour that we ever did. And it's kind of this compound effect where if you're not putting yourself in a position to be discovered, if you're not putting yourself in a position to put in the reps and be seen in front of a crowd or whatever it is that you do so that people can actually find you, those quantum leap opportunities of going from New Orleans to Austin here in the US at, a small club in New Orleans to a huge club in Austin to huge clubs in Asia only 8 months later, most people would overlook that first opportunity in New Orleans just because, maybe monetarily it wasn't the best. Just at the time we were like making shit happen, and yeah, man, I can see parallels to a compound effect, whether it's, doing a podcast or, building any sort of social following. For example, I know Chris Williamson, the host of Modern Wisdom podcast in the UK, he's made multiple posts about the fact that he had more views, more downloads, more plays in December of 2019 than he did in the entire first year of his podcast in December or in the year of 2018.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect example of the compound effect. Like the winners and the people that really do make it, they're in it for the long haul. they don't worry about step 1, step 2. They're already thinking about step 500, step 5,000. Like that's where you're actually going to get into something special.
Mm, I love that. And that's so true, whether it's relationships, finances, chasing dreams, working out, like hell, all of those things are compounded. We live in a world where everything is instant gratification. You know, the Uber driver will bring your food to you. You know, you can hop on Amazon and order anything, gets dropped at your door. Like this world that we've created is amazing. It's convenient. It allows us freedom, but it also has become a world of instant gratification, right? And so
Totally.
we're chasing dreams and wanting to get six-pack abs, whatever it may be, we got to realize and take a step back, realize that it is the micro habits. And that's very, very well said. Tell me about your manager. You mentioned him making 45 calls, you know, really grinding for this project. And how has that partnership and having someone like that on your team, you know, really helped elevate you?
Yeah, it really happened at the perfect time. I was pretty hell-bent on that I didn't need a manager, and I remember vividly telling my parents that um, right after I had done a few shows myself, traveling around over to like Cleveland and Philadelphia, traveling from San Diego where I was living at the time, that I was like, hey, I don't think I can continue to grow this rapidly by myself. I'm going to have to bring somebody on the team to grow this. And a week later at the gym in downtown San Diego, it's called Fit Athletic. I had mentioned that I met Dave at the academy through baseball. Well, this is like 5.5 years later,
Wow.
and we ran into each other at the gym. He had just moved to San Diego. He was in Hawaii before that. And he's like, yo, dude, what's going on? And we just kind of caught up, and we reconnected. It was like, yo, what's your Instagram? We follow each other on Instagram. We hadn't even like talked really since baseball, just kind of passed in the hallway here and there. He was a few years ahead of me in school. And, you know, I ran into him at the gym a second time. And he's like, yo, dude, what's going on with this DJ stuff? Like, this is really interesting. And then we went and grabbed dinner, talked things over. He's like, hey, like, you know, I love to work with you. Let's see if I can help, you know, book more shows and see where you're at in 6 months. Well, that's kind of what kicked everything off, is like, we got a show in New Orleans. And because of that show in New Orleans, I'm pretty sure that's why we were able to book a big show in Atlanta and Charleston the following weekend or that month. I don't remember exactly. But having someone on your team that has the same integrity, the same values as you, the same level of savage, like being willing to get off of your work that your job that you're working full time at 6 or 7 p.m., go down to downtown San Diego, post up at a hookah bar or coffee shop, and grind till 1 a.m., 2 a.m., sending emails, cold calling people, DMs, trying to get any sort of opportunity to play anywhere, get more people noticing the music, and then waking up for work at 4:30 or 5 in the morning and doing it again over and over and over, and sacrificing, you know, not partying in San Diego and going out to the beach and whatnot on the weekends. Like that was a time where I was like, this is my guy. There isn't anyone else I'd rather do this with. And it was all in. Like, you know, looking at December 2017 was the first show that Dave was my manager for. It was for big nightclub, basement nightclub in San Diego. That show went really well. Then you fast forward to 9 months later, and we released my first big tour where I think we announced 16 or 18 shows in a month and a half, like September and October, all through the US, over to London. And yeah, like, for example, like 1 week, we were doing more shows than I was doing over the course of 3 or 4 months, just, you know, 6 months before. Like, you know, hitting London on a Tuesday night, University of Arizona on a Thursday night, and then Minneapolis that Saturday. Like that week right there, I was like, okay, like we're on to something. Like this can be a real thing. Like this is some serious shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's been an absolute game changer. And we speak the same language. Like it's like we're pretty much always on the same page. And I mean, I don't know anyone else who's willing to just be as savage with outreach. And the guy is just good at, befriending people. And that's what it really comes down to, is that throughout this time, we've befriended all these people in our industry where it doesn't really seem like, they're booking me or paying me money as someone to come perform at their club. It's like, I'm a friend of theirs now that they want to see again. And, we get along and we're friends, and it's always a good time when I go back to these clubs or these universities and I get to see people that I've played for before. So yeah, it's really kind of turned into like friendships, relationships all over the world, just like you're doing with your podcast.
Yeah. It's incredible. How was the first big tour? Was that like your first big tour, those month and a half where you're hitting 16 shows, you're going to London? What was that like exhilarating wise, travel wise, the shows, how was that?
It was phenomenal, man. I mean, I just always listen to my gut instinct in terms of what music to play. And dude, it was wild. I mean, we were grinding, man. Most people that do tours like this, they have an agency or a team of agents booking the shows. Like, these are two guys that didn't go to business school. We didn't go to some sort of music management school. I didn't go to a music school. Like, we were just figuring it the fuck out. Like, we were going. But that first tour, man, it lit a fire inside of me as to like what was actually possible with this. And seeing time and time again that like my performance in my show, like it worked in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It worked in Iowa. It worked in London. It was working in Providence, Rhode Island, and Minneapolis, and all over the place at Arizona State. And I was like, man, we're like onto something, because there would be people at fraternities. Like, I'll never forget this at the University of Arizona. This fraternity booked me and they had like 1,500 people in their backyard, dude, on a Thursday night, full on production. And there are some seniors that I met up with afterwards that had been there for 4.5 years. Some of them might've been on the Van Wilder program, but they were like, dude, that's the best show that we've seen here in the last 4 years. And I was like, well, damn, I know that there's been a lot of DJs that have come through the University of Arizona and put on great shows. That really means a lot. But it's hard to put into words, but I think back to when I was in college myself and wanting to just like push my physics homework aside and work on music or listen to music, and imagining and visualizing myself in front of the crowd and whatnot. At that time, I never really thought it was possible or reality, and it ended up happening. I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's crazy.
It is. It's incredible what happens when you do those things and take those macro steps. You mentioned visualization, and I know that you have a relationship with meditation and visualizing and putting the action behind your mindset. So tell me a little bit about your journey with that and kind of how that's helped catapult your success.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my relationship with meditation and visualization is really new. I got really into it last year, kind of right when COVID hit, and it became very apparent and obvious that touring and traveling around and a bunch of people in a nightclub, packed in one place wasn't really going to be a thing with a pandemic going on. And I was like, okay, I had a lot of internal reflection, and I was like, I need to change some things about myself. And I know you're a fan of Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss, and all these people in that book are like, what's a key part of your ritual, and like however many people are in that book. Was it like 100, 150, a ton, right? I felt like it was, 50%, maybe even as much as 80% of those people are like, I meditate in the morning. I meditate in the morning. And I have a good friend, his name's Chase Maher, who he has a successful podcast about like real estate investing, and he's a good friend of mine. He had been raving about meditation for a couple of years, and I kind of blew it off as like everyone kind of like refers to it as woo woo. I don't even know what that means, but that's like what I thought about. I was like, dude, that's BS. Like, I don't need that type of stuff. But Mason, I could not have needed it more, man. I didn't realize that I was living life in such a fast moving pace and not really thinking things through. And I believe the first meditation I got into was from that book, Tools of Titans. Tara Brach, her smile guided meditation, which is like a 10 or 20 minute guided meditation. The first time I meditated, I was like, what the hell is going on? All these bad thoughts are going through my head. And, over and over tried that one. And then I got into an abundance meditation on Mind Valley by Vishen Lakhani that he has Bob Proctor do this guided meditation. That's 20 minutes. And it's all about abundance. Any interaction that you have with people, lift them up, anything's possible type of vibes. And I was like, okay, this is my thing. The smile guided one was okay, but I just really got into a routine, man. And it's like a great way to reset. I know that you have a great relationship with meditation, but I'll tell you what, meditation and affirmations too, man, have been life-changing for me in the last year. Writing I have no fear in me down for the last, and it's been, I think, 340 or 350 days now, writing down I am a great friend, writing down, I have unlimited energy. Like those type of affirmations are just absolutely powerful. And I'm still kind of growing my relationship with visualization. And I want to make that a little bit more, part of my routine, but I love to hear if you practice visualization.
Yeah.
Or your thoughts on it.
Definitely. And that's just, it's powerful. It really is. And my journey with it is similar to yours. It was something that I kind of did, not really. Like breath work was more of a performance thing, not as much for meditation, and visualization was more for a performance thing. You hear athletes visualize yourself making the catch, breaking the tackle, hear the crowd going wild, and like all the minor details. But then when you take that and you utilize it in your actual day-to-day life and now outside of sports, and you start visualizing yourself and saying those things, like you said, like I am fearless, like I have no needs or wants, like those kind of things pack a lot of punch behind them. Speaking towards, though, the athletic side of things, you've started running within the last 7 months, and this goes back to the just start thing. So you have an athletic background, but now you're starting to run, and not just like run, but run with some pace and some time, and like impressive times. The other day I saw on your Instagram, you did an 11-mile run, and it was a little over a 7-minute pace throughout the whole 11 miles. I mean, that's impressive. Like that's moving. So how did you jump into this area of running, and what's your fitness routine kind of like, whether you're on tour or just at home?
Yeah, I love all those topics, Mason. I would say with running, I kind of I had a mindset shift after reading the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, and that concept of a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. I read that in May of 2020, and last year in June I turned 28 years old right after reading that book, and I was kind of thinking to myself, okay, Jimmy, what is a major weakness of mine that has been I put a blind eye to that I've put off, or just wrote off as an excuse because of a fixed mindset? And I immediately pointed to cardio and running. I was like, okay, from a physical standpoint, if there's one thing I suck at, it's cardio. And I was never a track athlete, didn't run cross country or anything. I would have to run when I was at the Naval Academy for like required fitness tests, and that was the only time I ran. I would prepare for that so I didn't suck and I could pass and like continue to go to school there, And I came across someone named Nick Bear. He's the owner of Bear Performance Nutrition, former U.S. Army Ranger. He's a big guy like you, football player, and he's probably like, I don't know, 6 foot, 200 pounds. And he started posting on his Instagram, running seven miles at a big pace. And then I started digging into his YouTube, and he had done an Ironman and like all these endurance. He had done a marathon and everything. I was like, what? I've never seen like a bigger dude, kind of like a football player, power lifter type guy do this stuff. And not that I'm that big, but I'm a bigger person. And it kind of gave me permission to be like, you know what, Jimmy, like yeah, that's fine that you're not built like a track runner or have the frame of a cross country runner. Like you can still be good at this. So yeah, last summer I started going for runs in the humid Maryland summer, and it absolutely sucked, dude. Like every run was awful. It was painful. And I remember just thinking like, why am I doing this? But I had something in the back of my mind where I was like, there's something on the other side of this suck that's really special. And this idea of being able to test yourself and measure progress every time you run, I became really addicted to like, okay, this time I'm just going to run a half mile further, or I'm going to try and run at a 5 second, per mile pace faster each time. And then like it kind of turns into this mind game, Mason, where like you're in this moment of like, I set out to run a 5 mile run. And at the first time I did that last year, I was like, man, this sucks. It's awful. But when you remind yourself, like, I put myself in this position to do this. And I just be like, dude, man the fuck up and like get through this. But I've seen it translate to other things in my life to be able to, stick into a music project, stick to a mix, sit in the damn chair, don't get up and check social media and like get the damn thing done and then worry about that shit later. With run, like I know that you like to lift. Lifting's been a big part of my life, my whole life, playing sports and whatnot. But like for running, dude, you can't cheat that. Like,
No.
with a lift, like, you do 6 reps, 12 reps, it's going to last 40 seconds to a little over a minute, but that shit's going to end, right? With a run, you're nonstop for 45 minutes, an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending what type of race or what type of run, right? So it's a different type of mental space to go to where like you can't cheat that shit. You either finish the run or you don't. And as far as a fitness routine, yeah, man, I lift 5 times a week, and I run 2 or 3 times a week. When I'm touring, it's a little bit tougher. I just, always try to get something done in the hotel gyms or I just make it happen somehow. But I think it kind of goes back to one is greater than zero in any situation for whatever you're working on. If it's a workout or social media, any sort of workout, any sort of momentum is better than nothing. But yeah, I'm not sure how far we should go into like a fitness routine, but yeah, man, the running's become a lot of fun. I've kind of gamified it a little bit.
You got to do that, and you got to be able to pair the suck with the progress and pair like the discomfort with positive. It's the thing with the cold showers thing. I started doing the cold showers and the ice tubs and all that.
Yeah.
At first it sucks, right? That first minute, 2 minutes. And I feel like this is the same thing with running. That first couple miles or that first mile or half mile, you're like, no.
Yeah.
And then you get in the run, you start going, your adrenaline's pumping, you loosen up, and then you're like flying and you get that runner's high, you're feeling good, right? It was, I was watching this thing with Wim Hof, and he had a bunch of guys come out and did this thing, group of 13 strangers. And something that the guy said was really stuck out to me about the concept of like grouping discomfort with growth and knowing that when you're putting yourself in these uncomfortable positions and you're doing something that scares you or that you're afraid of, that it's actually a positive thing. Like when you're failing, this is a positive thing. Like we switch our mindsets a lot of times to thinking that this is uncomfortable, I don't want to be there, or I don't want to do this. And our fight or flight response, like our natural response to things, is to survive. So we instantly want to seek comfort. But whenever we switch the mindset of like failure is good, I'm one step closer, this discomfort is leading to the other side. And what you said there, you knew that something good was on the other side of this suck.
Yes.
Super, super powerful to me. I kind of want to flip the script a little bit and talk about your music and what's coming next. Do you have some new music coming? And what should we expect, and kind of where can people find your music?
Absolutely. So far, with Dave and I, we've really focused on the touring, and I've put out a lot of remixes. Moving forward, I'm going to release a lot of original music. And the last year, I've had a tough time deciding what I want my sound to be and what I want to be remembered for with my sound and my music. But I've put a little too much pressure on myself thinking about what's hot, what's trending on Spotify. And, I want to put out catchy pop EDM type songs. I want to put out bangers that people will get really hyped for in the club. And basically kind of the same thing of one's greater than zero. I'm going to put out some catchy songs that some people are really going to like, but maybe the people that want the bangers won't really care about. And on the flip side, there's people that want to rage and they want the bangers, and the people that want the catchy music, that won't be for them. So it's kind of like the idea of no song is going to be perfect, and every song is going to attract somebody else. So I've kind of put the concept of, the perfect song or the perfect sound behind me that I was dealing with the last year, kind of really overthinking it, Mason, and not practicing what I was preaching with everything else that we've talked about this whole podcast. But yeah, man, I think, starting in April and May, there'll be a lot of new RoseDriive music coming soon, and I'm just going to start pumping that out, and really can't wait to get back to touring, man. Yeah, that's kind of those are the big things coming.
I'm excited to hear the new music and go to a show. We talked about that, man. I'm pumped for, some more human interactions, and I know you are too.
100%.
You mentioned your sound there, and I find this to be interesting because I actually really love EDM music. Like, my friends make fun of me all the time. I'm in the South. I love country music, like old country, George Strait accent. I like old hip hop, new hip. Like, if you push shuffle on my Spotify or whatever, there's no telling what you're gonna get. But I love like deep house music, some electronic music, trance music. So, is there someone that's inspired you with their sound that you think is kind of similar to what your lane would be, or is it something that's totally unique?
Okay, so I'm going to answer it in kind of three ways where I get inspiration from music production and the sound that people make, their music. That's one little piece of the puzzle. Another piece is what someone's set is like in their live show, and then what someone's experience and stage presence is like. So I'm going to kind of pull from three different pieces on this, Mason. So for where I get inspiration from music and production wise, I love the Chainsmokers. Their remixes early on when they started out was a huge influence for me and my sound with my remixes. Now they've kind of evolved into this pop EDM, catchy stuff that really anybody that, can vibe with, sing along. It's kind of good for hangouts, or it's good for the club. For actual shows, I love, Tiesto, like his big room sound. I want to make music like that, and I want my shows to be like that. And then in terms of like stage presence and bringing a ton of energy and being the life of the crowd, bringing that effervescence, being a vibe engineer, and like bringing everybody in the room together through music and like making eye contact with everybody. Someone that I really, really like that does that really well. I saw Panic at the Disco in concert at Hershey Park in Pennsylvania a long time ago. And the lead singer, Brendan Urie, has the best stage presence and energy, like running around all over the stage. And like, you can't watch this guy and not get hyped up, even if you don't like that music. So I kind of get inspiration in different ways from different people. I don't have like, I like Calvin Harris. I like his music, but he like chills in the DJ booth. I want to be the guy like jumping around and really hyping everybody up and like be as hype as the people in the pit, like pushing each other around.
Yeah.
So I get inspiration from those are kind of the guys I'm thinking about right now.
And I love how you have it to three specific processes. I think that's important for anything. You have these three things. Like, I want to, in my total character as, Jimmy, as the DJ, I want these three things. And this is kind of where I pull from. I think it's important for processes because processes work, right? We want to be to play off the cusp and be unique in our own ways. But we know that certain processes work in business, in life, in our habits, in music production, and stage presence. Like those processes work. So I love how you have that intention of those three things. That's huge. But one thing that I thought of was Steve Aoki. Like
Yeah.
I saw him one time, and like he does the cake toss and stuff, but he has energy. Like I feel like he connected with the crowd in that energy. It was a smaller club, but like his vibe was more so like that than someone who just like sits behind the booth and like bobs, right? Which is fine.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh,
like,
he throws a party, dude. I love Steve Aoki.
good time. That was a good time for sure.
Yeah.
Well, man, I've seen you post a lot about success and motivation. We've talked about mindset. So where do you see yourself and your DJ process, and like what's the big picture for you as far as moving forward? Like what are some goals and aspirations that you want for yourself?
Yeah, I want to make dope music for people that, can help them get through, a breakup, a tough time in school, like just get through life. And like, I turn to music whenever I need a boost, man. I want to make music that lifts people up. I'm so much a music mason nowadays. I feel like people are catering to the sadness in the world, like making lyrics about a breakup, making lyrics about, society being effed up, or bad things happening on the streets, or whatever it is. Like, I don't vibe with that music, because I kind of, like we talked about on my podcast, it gets in your subconscious mind. So I'm really, any type of music that I put out there, I want to have a positive energy and positive impact on people. So I want to make dope music that people resonate with and can create memories around, and then put on dope shows that people can talk about and reflect on those experiences forever. But Dave and we want to push the envelope. Like, we want to tour in Europe way more than we have. I want to play at Tomorrowland. I want to play at Ultra Music Festival Miami, get a residency in Las Vegas, be playing there multiple times a year. I used to be afraid to actually admit that publicly on a podcast, but hey man, I want to put out the right energy to the universe that I'm all in. I'm not afraid to admit it on a podcast where people will listen. So yeah, man, I want all those big things. But as far as fitness and the podcast, I want to show, just like you have, where you're like, hey, I want to have a podcast and show everybody, I'm more than just an athlete and a football player. I'm this well-rounded human being. With the podcast, that's exactly that. I want more of a connection with my followers and my fans that know me for my music, where they can kind of see me talk about different things. And I post the workouts to maybe motivate people to actually, get in a fitness routine, get after it. And a promoter who has become a good friend of mine, he told me straight up that me posting my workouts on Instagram got him into the gym to really start getting after it. The guy has lost 30 pounds in the last 6 months from getting into a cycling routine. So yeah, man, I just want to show all sides of me and inspire people like, hey, you can do multiple things in your life. You don't have to just niche down to one thing. Yeah. So that's kind of like I think the best way I can describe it.
Beautiful. And it is powerful that when you get out of your own way and you start just being you, doing those things and sharing some of your inspiring thoughts, your motivations, like you said, someone picked that up and lost 30 pounds. And of course they did the work, but sometimes all it takes is a little kick in the ass, right? And the fact that you and I and other people have that ability, everyone has this capability to inspire those around you. There's someone that looks up to you in one way or another, whether you know it or not. So there is a responsibility when it comes to that. And I applaud you for, taking that leap of like, hey, yeah, I have my music, but here's a deeper connection with me. And I think your fans will very much, feel that and be even more connected to you when you do start touring and doing music. This is giving them an extra glimpse of creating that deeper connection with an artist, which I think is really, really cool. And you will play at Tomorrowland, and you play at Ultra, and I'm pumped to be in the back shaking champagne bottles and going crazy. So absolutely. I mean, I believe in you, man. And tell everybody where they can find you, find your music, find your content, upcoming shows, whenever that starts happening, all that.
Yeah, thanks, Mason. And hopefully I can, when I get back to touring down in the South and SEC country, I can have you come out to a show and we can have a fun time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the best place to follow me is RoseDriive on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active for my music. Artist Spotify, RoseDriive, Twitter, RoseDriive, and then podcast is The Art of You on Spotify, Apple Podcast. Yeah. And for anybody looking for like a 1 hour hype mix for your workouts or your runs, check out Ride with RoseDriive. I post a new mix every Tuesday. It'll hype you up for your workouts and give you some good energy. And yeah, if you follow me on Instagram, you won't miss any tour announcements or anything like that. And would love to, anybody listening, if you check out my music or if this podcast has resonated with you, it'd really mean a lot if you reached out and, you know, take a screenshot of this, tag Mason and I, and let us know what you think. So thanks again for having me, man.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, Jimmy. And I love what you said there. It just came to mind about, you know, the feeling that you get when you listen to music. And I've listened to some of your mixes, and it is in a world that always seems so bogged down and where fear and panic and bad news sells. Like, that is what I think I love the most about EDM or house music in general, is the fact that it feels good, right? It gets you hype, you know, it makes you smile, jump around, like you get some good dopamine going. Like, that's what I love about that, you know? And you provide that with your mixes and with your energy that you know, put out into the world. So thank you for that. And Jimmy, thank you so much for coming on to the show. It's been a pleasure.
Mason, it means a lot that you asked me to come on. And yeah, I hope that we can meet some, you and I can get together, and some people from my community and your community, we can all get together and have a good time at a show at some point. Definitely we'll make that happen. So guys, be ready for some new RoseDriive music coming soon. Go check out Jimmy and all of his music and social media platforms. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of the Breathe in Air podcast, where everyday action meets extraordinary mindset. And that's a wrap. Go be great today.